Yeah.
That's Dave on the other end, and he thinks he's funny.
And that's Jared on that end.
I'm Sean. We're Ender's Game. Dave and I met when Dave was in college in a former version of the band, and then I left, and he hooked up with Jared and formed Ender's Game, and then I begged to come back, and they allowed it.
It was a huge story.
Yeah.
There's a lot more to it than that.
I had to orally service them both, but I was able to earn my way back.
That's the Cliff Notes version, which is really what matters.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
Right. So you met, and obviously you hit it off at that time, and
Instant love.
something has gone right that you've been together for 13 years.
They listened to me.
Well,
Most
so
marriages don't last that long.
this was
So what's
No,
keeping
they
you guys
don't.
Together?
I can attest to that. This band killed my marriage.
Was it worth it?
It was all us.
I'd rather have this. We are like every good marriage, we don't talk. The worst things happen when people talk to each other. So we just don't talk.
Yeah.
We just play and watch football together, and then...
Occasionally we get a text from the other person, and the other two of us ignore it.
Have you ever come to the point where you thought you were actually going to break up the band, though?
No.
I mean, there's had to been fights over the years. And
No,
stuff,
of course not. Mm-mm. Nope. Solid as a rock. 13 years.
So what's the secret?
On a serious note, I think it's just allowing people the space to be the idiots that they are.
The spies.
Yeah.
How'd you guys come up with the name Ender's Game?
It was not from the book.
It was not from
It
the
was
movie.
not from the movie. It was not from any entertainment conglomerates. It was strictly chance.
It was put on a list, and it was the only one that more than half the band could agree upon at that time.
Which was two of us at that time. So it was really difficult to get a consensus. Because we've always tried to write the music we want to listen to, because nobody's really writing, I guess, the stuff we want to hear. I mean, we definitely had our influences, but we kind of wanted something still different than what we heard.
Who came close?
Who came close?
Back in the early days?
Nobody.
Sting, maybe?
You know, we're a heavier band, and heavy music has become so categorized and splintered away from what it actually was that there's almost
We ran out of film.
we ran out of film. The music we like to play doesn't even exist, so we tried to create it. It's about writing good music, and we happen to do it in a heavier fashion.
Yeah, I mean, if you go back to, the late 90s, early 2000s, late 90s when Dave and I first started jamming, and early 2000s with Ender's Game, and you start to think about the different styles of metal that were around back then. Dave heavily influenced a lot, like In Flames, I know, was one of his biggest bands when I first hooked up with him. And I was more into the older school thrash kind of stuff, and Jared had some
And
of that
Creed.
along with a lot of And Creed.
Folk
You think
metal.
of all these different styles of metal, and none of them, not speaking for Jared today, but for myself, none of them really like totally fit the bill. You know, you had very aggressive, thrashy Slayer stuff. You had more melodic stuff with bands like Anthrax. You had a lot of intricate guitar work with bands like In Flames, and just none of it all really fit together. And so you pull all those pieces together and try and come up with something that fills that need.
We wanted a gumbo of metal.
Jambalaya.
A jambalaya. Oh, even better.
I'd say the only tie-in from classical music to ours is maybe the structure idea that
Yeah, it doesn't have to fit a specific format
Yeah.
like you do with radio.
we don't follow a radio or a
Music.
pop format. It's more of the classical idea that we try to put peaks and valleys, and
Yeah.
sometimes write more epic-y, longer pieces as compared to
And whatever the
3-minute
song
radio
needs,
stuff.
you know, whatever the song needs. If the song ends up needing to be 6 or 8 minutes long, it's 6 or 8 minutes. If it needs to be 2.5 minutes, it's 2.5 minutes. There's no format. It's just what that song needs and however it needs to be built. And I think that's, like Jared says, probably one of the closer things to a classical format.
Tuba solo, you know, sometimes we're like, what is this song really asking for? Tuba solo comes up and we're like, yeah, tuba solo, bro.
With this ring,
Just got out of prison, my butthole is still fizzing, got goo, goo, goo dripping out my back door.